We're back in Psalm 22 for today, and we're going to take a look at verses 2 and 3. Remember, this is Psalm 21 in the Greek. We're also one off in the numbering compared to the Greek. We'll use the English numbering. And as we go through it, even though these two verses and the next ones after it aren't necessarily used in the New Testament directly, in the prior video, we saw how Jesus has taken this psalm and made it his own as he is suffering in his final week. He quotes the first verse in his cry of derelictions. As we go through, keep in mind that this is still functioning as this intensely personal communication, conversation, if you will, between Jesus, the divine Son, and his heavenly Father. So let's take a look. Hotheosmu, ke kraxomai hemeras, kai uk es akuse, ke nuktas, kai uk es anoion emoi. Sude in hagiois, katoikes ha epinas Israel. We'll begin with the hotheos plus the mu. Again, you have these first and second person pronouns and verb forms all along. So this is a repeat from the first verse, my God. He's addressing God the Father once again. And our verb here is kekraxomai, which is from krazo. Now, this is actually going to be parsed as first singular future middle. Even though the morphology is a bit odd, the reduplication might throw you off, but we do know that with these square stops here, plus the omai ending, that's going to be a future middle. Probably not the only way to spell a future middle here. Not really sure why it reduplicates, but most would argue this is a future middle. So I will cry out. And then hemeros here in the accusative plural is going to be something like daily or by day or during the days, if you will. And it's really quite interesting when you think about the Passion Week, because he is crying out to God in the early morning at this point. And then he says, kai uk, and you do not, this is from asakua, you do not listen or will not listen. So with that sigma plus that eta iota subscript there, this is a second singular future middle indicative as well. See the similar morphology. So I will cry out by day and you will not listen, almost prophetic, if you will, anticipating what will happen to Jesus. And also by night. So keep in mind, Jesus crying out to his Father both at night, for instance, in the Garden of Gethsemane, but also by day. And then here we have a bit of a tricky phrase. We have the negation once again. The eis anoion emoi is a bit strange in Greek. Anoia typically means folly, and the Masoretic has silence there. It's really hard to put together exactly what the Greek translator's getting at. It's something like he's crying out by day, you're not listening, or you will not listen by night. And it is not becoming folly to me. It's not being successful, if you will. It's just kind of resulting in this silence or this state of being perplexed. Where is God? Something to that effect. But admittedly, the Greek here can be a bit tricky. And then he still nevertheless praises him, even though he feels like his prayers are hitting the ceiling, if you will. Su, you, my God. And then you notice the de here. It's a contrast. In hagiois, and then we have katoikes here. Now, just a brief note, the Masoretic and some of the Latin versions, some of the manuscripts actually have this as a singular, the holy place, if you will, but here in the plural, it's something like in the holy places or even among the holy ones. And then katoikeo here is in the second singular present active indicative. That means to dwell. So you dwell either among the holy ones or in the holy places. And he calls him the epinas Israel. This word epinas means the praiseworthy one or something like that. You are the praise of Israel, even though at this moment I feel distant from you. I will cry out by day and by night. Are you listening? And so, again, that reminds us that as to his humanity, not as to his ontological deity, if you will, as he is undergoing his vicarious suffering for his people, Jesus is crying out. And at least at first, the question is God going to listen? Of course, Jesus is going to die. And so the question that we might have, if you know the psalm, is like, well, maybe God has not listened at all. I want you to hold this thought. This is planting a seed that will pay off several verses from now. We're going to see this show up again, that indeed God will listen. But for now, Jesus is going through the suffering of bearing the wrath of God. And it seems like God is not listening. But we'll see that there's going to be a big turn in the psalm down the road. So stay tuned for that. It's going to take a while for us to get there. So Psalm 22, verses 2 and 3.